Are you looking for a family SUV with an efficient powertrain, preferably one that you won't lose among other shopping trolleys everyone else seems to be driving these days? This is the new Hyundai Santa Fe, and it looks like someone would draw a Land Rover in an early 90s PC game. But is it any good? Let's find out. Hyundai is on a roll in recent years when it comes to design. First there was the Tucson featuring parametric design, then the Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 6, and now we have the Santa Fe. It's a radical design change versus the outgoing model. The old Santa Fe was elegant but in a bland way. This new car turns heads. The body has sharp, straight lines. From afar, there is no doubt this is an SUV designed for adventure, even if this adventure doesn't involve going too far off the beaten path. The front is massive and I love the H headlights. Yes, H is for Hyundai, but at first I thought this was the Under Armour logo or maybe some Space Invaders character. From the side we see very muscular fenders, and the black cladding around them and along the sills makes the profile visually slimmer and seem to lift this SUV way higher than its stock ground clearance of just 17.7 centimeters. Also, look at the upper window line, which drops towards the rear. So, from the front we have a strong SUV, but along the side it's more like a lifted estate, and to me the Santa Fe looks very much like the Ford Flex. An interesting bit of car nerd trivia: if you go for the top trim, which may be called Calligraphy or Blackline, you get these grab handles hidden in the C-pillars. The idea is that you grab the handle, you step on the wheel and then reach for the roof rail, like this. I really liked it when installing GoPro on the roof. I do it for every car I film, and this was by far the easiest. Of course, these handles can be locked so as not to facilitate unauthorized persons climbing your roof. I've also seen the US press footage where more accessories are mounted on the D-pillars. I don't think we're gonna get those in Europe. The rear looks more like a minivan. Yes, the X or H lamps make it look a bit more interesting, but the huge tailgate is meh. At least the rear wiper is nicely tucked under the roof spoiler, just like on a Land Rover Discovery. But this huge flat tailgate also has some advantages. Firstly, there is a big wide opening, so loading the car up is easier. Secondly, if you're actually going camping, this long tailgate will protect you from moderate rain. Depending on the trim, the Hyundai Santa Fe can be a 5, a 6 or a 7-seater. The 6-seat option is reserved for the top trim like this one here. The boot capacity is around 700 liters for the 5-seater and around 630 liters for the 6 or 7-seater in 5-seat configuration. Fold down the seats in the second row and you get more or less 2,000 liters, more in the regular hybrid, less in its PHEV variant. Hyundai doesn't say what the boot volume is with all the seats up, but according to my measurements is about 250 liters. That's more than in the facelifted Kia Sorento, from which the Santa Fe is slightly longer and slightly taller. In the boot we get shopping bag hooks, including those on the backrests of the second row seats, 12-volt and 220-volt outlets, USB-C ports, well, they're actually for third-row passengers, but you can also use them to power stuff in the boot, and buttons to fold the second-row seats. They're electric on this top trim model. But there is no place for the cargo cover in the PHEV. The regular hybrid has more space in the small storage compartment by the boot sill. Rear doors open wide and they cover the sills, so that's good. Now watch out for the falling window line, which I mentioned earlier. The opening is much lower than you might expect from a car this size. So the couple of first days I hit my head when I was trying to reach something from the back. Now you can access the third row either passing between the captain's chairs, which I prefer, or by moving and folding the seat, which takes a while. And yeah, I know, electric feels like luxury, but I could do it quicker manually. The third row situation is similar to that in the Kia Sorento. Even teenagers will have their knees behind their ears. The backrest angle is adjustable, so you can choose between headroom and boot space behind the third row. Rear passengers also get their own AC zone, cup holders, and USB-C ports I mentioned earlier. In the second row there is good headroom and legroom, even with the seats pushed all the way forward. Now, while the backrest angle is electrically adjustable, sliding is manual but with an electric locking mechanism. So they managed to complicate even the simplest task. My mistake. I later found the levers to slide the seats back and forth. The button on the side of the seat is actually to set the default position to which the seat will return from the third row access position. There are countless cup holders, USB-C ports, jacket hangers, shopping bag hooks, a drawer which slides under the front center console. And you can also access the center console from the rear. Hyundai is very proud of this and calls it a bilateral multi-console. Instead of the bilateral multi-console, I'd rather have a separate climate zone back here, but here we are. Analog gauges are for bowlers and their Paganis and their Bugattis. Digital screens are the poor man's reality, so get used to two 12.3-inch screens on top of the dash and a 6.6-inch panel for AC and stuff on the center console. Good news, the panel features some physical controls too. The infotainment system doesn't do much and you'll be using Android Auto or Apple CarPlay anyway. However, in its press release, Hyundai devotes a lot of text to the BlueLink app, so I paired my account with the car to see what's it all about. So, I can check the car status and location. I can lock and unlock the doors, open and close the windows, start and end charging, because this is a PHEV, but can I set the parking heater on? Nope, because Hyundai doesn't have one, not even in a PHEV. I can only open the windows slightly for better ventilation when it's hot outside. Buttons on the steering wheel are physical, and so are the buttons over the driver's left knee. On the right side of the steering wheel lives the gear selector. It's a shame Hyundai didn't copy Kia's solution, which is a slight vibration of the selector when you put the car in reverse. On the center console, under the screen, are USB-C ports and a dual wireless phone charger. I like the clearly visible charging indicators. I don't like rather low output, just like in the Kia Sorento. On a long road trip you'll get some charge, but when you're running your daily errands, you'll be lucky to maintain state of charge, especially since charging stops every time you or the passengers open the door. So no charging when you're saying goodbye to the kids. Next to the USB-C ports is a UV-C button. The top trim model gets a UV sterilization compartment. That's the top glove box. You pop your phone or gloves in there, press the button, and in 10 minutes they should be disinfected. This is a bit of a gimmick to give the media something to talk about. Under the top glove box is a shelf, and under it is the proper glove box, which isn't very big, by the way. Under the center console is a large cubby with a 12-volt outlet. On the center console you get cup holders for up to 10.5 cm diameter containers. That's probably the US XXL cup size. And there's the bilateral multi-console again. Instead of access from the rear, I'd rather have a softer armrest. Inside the console is a tray which you can remove and then have access to the contents of the drawer in the second row. Another gimmick, to be honest. The door pockets are larger than on the Kia Sorento though, so kudos for that. And if you're the tree-hugging type, there's some good news and some bad news. While the roof liner is made from recycled materials and the doors are covered in faux leather, the seat leather is the real deal, says Hyundai. In Europe, the Hyundai Santa Fe is a HEV or a PHEV. The former can be had as front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, 215 horsepower, and the latter is all-wheel drive only, and it makes 253 horsepower. Regardless of the drivetrain, the Santa Fe can tow up to 1,100 kilograms and carry up to 100 kilograms on the tow hitch. Hyundai claims the PHEV should do 0 to 100 km per hour in 9.3 seconds. I checked and I got 7.7 seconds in sport mode and 7.6 seconds in eco mode. There is no normal mode on this car. And yes, the Santa Fe was marginally quicker in eco mode than in the sport mode, so that's interesting. Regardless of which hybrid you go for, the main component is the 1.6-liter turbo petrol engine. The regular hybrid should use about 7 liters per 100 kilometers in the combined cycle, and the PHEV has a claimed fuel economy of less than 2 liters per 100 kilometers, which we all know is a lot of bull. However, there's a reason I mentioned the regular hybrid fuel economy. We'll get back to it soon. The PHEV has 13.8 kilowatt-hour traction battery and a claimed electric range of around 54 kilometers. On a warmer day it's achievable, on a colder day not really. Also, on colder days the petrol engine kicks in every now and then to maintain the operating temperature. It was the same on the Kia Exceed PHEV, which I reviewed, whoa, that was autumn 4 years ago. There is just a 3.6 kilowatt onboard charger, so charging takes 4 hours. However, with such a small battery, faster charging isn't really needed. So let's say you can drive this to do your daily errands close to home using cheap electricity. In the mass market segment, there aren't really many PHEV 7-seat all-wheel drive SUVs with substantially longer electric range. Yes, it's a small niche because the Skoda Kodiaq IV has twice the range, but it's a front-wheel drive 5-seater only. And what's going to happen when you run out of energy? I drove the Santa Fe for more than 700 kilometers, 500 of which is on the dual carriageway. With cruise control set to 120 kilometers per hour, I averaged 8.5 liters per 100 kilometers, and that's leaving home with a full battery. Overall, including about 200 kilometers driven around the city and on B roads, I got about 7 liters per 100 kilometers, and I can check that in the Blue Link app, but there is no parking heater. Anyway, 7 liters is about what the regular hybrid would use, so everything adds up, because after I use up the big traction battery, I drive in regular hybrid mode, where the electric motor helps or replaces the petrol engine when it improves fuel economy. The PHEV also has a smaller fuel tank than the regular hybrid. It's 47 liters instead of 67 liters, so on longer trips total range is lower than on the regular hybrid. However, if you drive a lot around your charging point, it's better to have a smaller fuel tank to fill up with fresh petrol every now and then. It's a compromise. Other than that, the Santa Fe is pleasant and simple to drive. The soundproofing is average. Up to about 120 kilometers it's okay, but any faster and you realize you're driving a big shoebox. Same in a much more expensive Land Rover Defender, so I won't complain. Driver aids are reasonably good unless they are broken. On the second day of testing, some rear radar went bust, so I lost blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert, but there is still at least adaptive cruise control and front collision warning, and it works fine. ESA can be disabled by long pressing the mute button on the steering wheel. However, if I were you, I would set one of the programmable buttons to quickly access the driver assist settings. You'll want to disable the driver attention monitor because it's on every time you set off, and because it's overactive. It reacts even when I roll my eyes, thinking about how badly it is calibrated. The turning circle is 11.6 meters, and the 360 camera makes parking easier. And now my diagonal approach test. I stop halfway this incline with the wheels on the diagonal with limited traction, and then I try to get going again. The first attempt is in Eco mode with ESP on. There is some wheel spin, but the traction control catches the loose wheels relatively quickly and I get up. The second attempt is in Eco mode, but with ESP off. There's even more slip, but it feels as if the car got up with sheer momentum. The third attempt is in Snow mode, a lot of wheel spin, probably to allow the car to start moving on a slippery surface. The fourth attempt is in Mud mode. This looks like the quickest traction control reaction. I didn't expect that, as I would imagine you want a bit of more wheel spin to get the excess mud off the tires. And the last attempt is in Sand mode. I seriously thought I'm not going to make it up, but I would probably use this mode on mud and sand. Price of the new Hyundai Santa Fe started €56,700 for the base 5-seater with front-wheel drive. The cheapest all-wheel drive 5-seater costs €61,150. It costs just $3,000 more to get a PHEV. This is the top trim calligraphy or blackline model, a 6-seater PHEV with matte paint. It costs €69,340. The new Hyundai Santa Fe looks appealing, but underneath is actually quite ordinary, and perhaps this is its secret sauce. It's a car you'll be proud to park in your driveway, but it doesn't overwhelm you with tech for teenagers who, for the time being, are confined to the Santa Fe's rear seats. And what do you think about the new Hyundai Santa Fe? Do you like the looks, or maybe you're after something that flies below the radar? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like my sarcastic, down-to-earth and possibly mildly amusing car reviews, join me every Friday at 3 p.m. Central European Time, and don't forget to subscribe and like this video as it helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.